When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
In Fairfield County, something new comes across my desk every day. Crimes are committed, cases are solved, and a community is made safe by the hardworking employees of the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office.
Welcome to This Week with Sheriff Dave Phelan, a weekly program here on LSN Television. We're also carried by a number of the radio affiliates here in Lancaster. Do appreciate you, the viewers and listeners that join us each and every week. We're about into our 7th year on television and about 14 or 15 years on radio. And even this last few days, I've had a couple of people that tell me they've watched the program and how much they enjoy it. And certainly we are really glad to be able to have this opportunity to share with you things going on within the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office. This week we have a great guest, Jason Meadows, a detective within the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office. Welcome, Jason.
Good morning, Sheriff.
It's good to have you.
Thank you. Yes.
And Jason is actually the 2015 Deputy of the Year, and that's coming up. Our awards luncheon's coming up, and every year we select a Deputy of the Year, a Detective of the Year, a patrol and jail deputy of the year, and a civilian of the year, and a supervisor of the year. So congratulations, and well deserved.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So you've been a lot of things been going on, and some of the things we talked about before airtime was the number of and these are cases that you've worked, so maybe you can tell us a little bit about them. The first one is the number of garage and barns that have been broken into.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a rash of garage, barn break-ins and things of that nature, and it's one of those things where they will take tools, very common, yard equipment, chainsaws, things of that nature. Those items, unfortunately, a lot of people don't have the serial number for them, and it makes it a little bit more difficult to track them. And the people who are going out and stealing them, you know, they could be taking them to pawn shops, or just, we have had a couple cases that we investigated where once they steal the stuff, they take it and they just go sell it out of the back of their vehicle at, you know, any
Store parking lots
or any place like that. So sometimes it's a little bit hard to track them, but we've had some success in.
And typically, how are they gaining entry into these garages and outbuildings?
Well, it could be through an unlocked door. Some of them are forced entry through the entry doors or windows. We actually have had both, where they'll utilize those avenues to get into the building, and then once they get in there, depending upon what they have, they will a lot of times maybe take and the items that they want to steal, and they'll take them out and put them by the road, and then a vehicle will come and pick them and the stolen property up.
Now, were some arrests made out of these cases?
Yes, sir, there was.
Okay. What are some things like our listeners or viewers may want to do to help protect their garages or outbuildings?
Well, one of the big things is that may help is locking the doors. One of the things I would really encourage people to do is when they get new tools and things of that nature, to make note of the serial number. We can do a lot with the serial number as far as pawn shops and things of that nature, or if we just happen to come across it, you know, say a deputy's out on patrol and he pulls over a car and they got 10 chainsaws in there. You know, they may be able to run the serial numbers on those, and if they're entered into leads in NCIC as being stolen, then it'll come up as a stolen item, and we can recover it and things of that nature. So,
on the garages, there, if I remember correctly, there's some cases where maybe someone would be working in another part of the yard, the house and the garage would be, the door would actually be up, and they would just run in there and grab some stuff.
Yes, so we did experience some of that up in the northern part of the county, Violet Township, where we did have some individuals that were driving around in the neighborhoods, and folks that just were out in the yard working, or and like you said, in another portion of the yard, and they would just park their vehicle on the street. They would run in the garage, grab something, and then they would come back. Two of the cases that stick out in my mind is we had a gentleman that had his golf clubs that were stolen by that method, where he'd run in the garage, and then he took, and then they went down the street and went into another garage and got a chainsaw. So we were able to actually locate those items at pawn shops.
Okay.
And subsequently we were able to get that stolen property back to the victims and file charges.
Right, right. Now the other case, last year, you actually yourself investigated 22 child abuse and sexual assault cases.
Yes, you know, that is something that we see a lot of, unfortunately. We work closely with Children's Services. A lot of times they'll get the referrals and they'll get sent up to our office, and then once they get assigned to a detective, then we'll go out. We utilize the Child Advocacy Center to conduct the interviews with the younger children, and once we have that information, then we would then speak with any perpetrator and then see if what we can do as far as coming up with criminal charges for
Those are tough cases, I'm sure, because you're dealing with children and you're dealing with, and many times, probably most of the time, the perpetrator has some kind of relationship within the family. Was that not correct?
That's correct, Sheriff. And you know, it's one of those things that sometimes we lack physical evidence that would warrant, you know, anything other than a he said, she said type situation. So they are very difficult cases to work.
And I would think it would be unusual for a child just to make some of these things up.
Well, absolutely. And as we've learned over the years, it's kind of a learned behavior. So we definitely, when we're investigating these types of cases, we take that into consideration to, you know, did they learn it from other means where maybe they were a victim, and maybe then they are now victimizing somebody else. So
right,
it's definitely an avenue that we look at.
Pretty tough stuff. Now, recently, you've been doing some stuff with Homeland Security on retail thefts from stores, and I thought that was fascinating.
You know, it was a great experience. It's one of the first times that we have participated. It's a new program that they're rolling out. They actually, I believe, started doing something very similar to this up in Michigan, and so we were kind of a pilot in Ohio to try it with Homeland Security, and it was a 2-day event where we worked in conjunction with Homeland Security, Lancaster Police Department, the Major Crimes Unit, and our Detective Bureau, and we were able to get into a position in the parking lot in unmarked cars.
Of retail stores throughout the area, right?
That's correct, sir. And so what we did is then with the stores that participated in the event had extra loss prevention.
Right.
And so while they were doing that, and then they would notify us when the suspects were exiting the store.
And they're primarily shoplifters, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And then we would stop them in the parking lot and then go and interview them and see what we could come up with. As a result of that, we had some individuals that were up here from Texas that were going all over here at Central Ohio, as we learned, stealing baby formula. And The baby formula is normally used, is sometimes used as a cutting agent for different types of drugs. So we could only venture to say that that was probably with the amount that they had, because we had recovered over 100 cans in the vehicle. And I think we ended up linking them to 2 or 3 stores that we knew that they had been to, and that they had probably been to others.
So this wasn't just a random, somebody goes in, they steal something. This is actually organized shoplifting on a wide scale from even other states.
Absolutely. And as this investigation kind of unfolded, we learned that they came from Texas, went to Indiana, came here to Ohio, and they were due to go back to Indiana and sell the formula that they had. And retailers are losing millions and upon millions, if not more, every year to these organized type crimes, because these individuals are being sent into stores by a larger scale person in the operation, and they're bringing it back. It's getting sold through the black market and things of that nature. So it's
Yeah, and I guess there's even specific things they ask for, like a different type of jeans, different size of clothing, and all types of different things.
Yes, sir, and that's one of the things. On one of our cases, we actually found a list.
Really?
Of items that it was their list of items to steal. So it's, and we see a lot of it. The Lancaster Mall, or River Valley Mall, I'm sorry. They're that whole area. Any retailer really could be.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember, a number of years ago, Loretta and I were actually going to the mall. I don't know if you remember this or not, and there was individuals near where we had parked. They opened the trunk of the car, and they were dumping bags full of clothing into the trunk of the car, and then they were going back into the mall. And at that point it was pretty obvious what they were doing, and I called the Lancaster Police Department, and they waited, and then when they came out the second time, they stopped them and had just thousands and thousands of dollars that they had been stealing. I think there was 3 ladies that were involved in that.
Right.
So it's amazing to me that it's that widespread. Of course, we all pay for it.
We do. Everything
you buy, they add to it, and I think, if I remember correctly, over like 1 week in one of the retail stores, it reported $5,000 was it worth of merchandise, something like that.
Yeah, it was extremely high number for a very short period of time, of just loss. And once again, the companies every year they're losing just millions of dollars.
Yeah, and I guess the message we give to our viewers and listeners: if you're in the store, you see someone look suspicious, they might be shoplifting, don't take action yourself, but certainly let a clerk, let a security officer, or someone know that what you've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's our first defense in what we do as far as catching the criminal is getting the tips from the public. They're our first, their eyes and our ears to all that type of activity. So they definitely help us do what we need to do.
We're just about out of time. I'd like to have you back next week, because I know you just recently concluded an investigation on a drug overdose, and actually was able to build a case on charging the individual that sold the drugs to the individual. Great investigation. We'll be talking about that next week. Jason Meadows, our Deputy of the Year, Detective of the Year for 2015. Appreciate him, and certainly all the detectives. They do a terrific job, and all the men and women within the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office. Appreciate you being here. Our executive producer, Kelly Roberts, behind the scene, and certainly the students here at Fairfield Christian Academy that put this program together. Until next week, same time, same place, God bless, and we'll see you right here next week.
These waters were woven into the culture of Native American tribes. The descendants of the early Europeans built a business here based on agriculture. And today, this unique destination in the central Ohio countryside comes to life with stories and memories centuries old. The Fairfield County Historical Parks invites you to amazing Rock Mill. Above the falls of the Hocking River Gorge, here together, nature and man have created some truly American stories that you'll want to experience with the entire family. Visit us or learn more about Rock Mill and the largest wooden water wheel in the nation at historicalparks.org.